Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that the entire world is in debt by more than $300 trillion, a number so large it is bigger than everything all countries on Earth produce in a full year. A number that means every single person on this planet is, in theory, tens of thousands of dollars in debt without ever signing a contract or taking a loan. This is not fiction. It is not a conspiracy. It is a reality confirmed by institutions like the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank. And this number alone is enough to raise a terrifying question. Are we living inside a system designed to keep everyone borrowing forever with no clear escape? Before debt became electronic numbers moving at the speed of light across bank screens, it was a simple idea. Borrow today, work tomorrow, and repay later. Debt was a bridge between present limitations and future potential. It was built on trust. Trust that tomorrow would be better. Trust that future effort would cover today's shortage. But over decades, this bridge slowly turned into a maze. What was once a temporary tool became the foundation of the entire global economy. Loans were no longer optional, they became essential for governments, companies, and even ordinary people to survive. By 2024, global debt had passed $318 trillion, an increase of nearly 50% in just 10 years. This includes government debt, corporate debt, and household debt combined. In simple terms, the world is borrowing faster than it is growing. And when any system consumes its future faster than it builds it, collapse becomes only a matter of time. Let us start with governments. Public debt alone has crossed $102 trillion worldwide. In the United States, national debt exceeded $34 trillion, meaning it is more than 130% of the country's annual economic output. For every dollar America produces, more than $1 of debt already exists. In Japan, the situation is even more extreme. Government debt is close to 260% of GDP, the highest among major economies. This is not mainly because of corruption or incompetence, but because of an aging population, massive pension costs, healthcare spending, and decades of slow growth. Corporations are not in a better position. Global non-financial corporate debt has surpassed $150 trillion. During the era of low interest rates, many companies found it easier to borrow than to innovate. Instead of building new factories or developing new technologies, they borrowed money to buy back their own shares, boost stock prices, and impress investors in the short term. This created an economy that looks strong on paper, but is fragile in reality because it relies more on cheap money than real productivity. Then there are individuals, the weakest link in the chain. In the United States alone, household debt exceeds $16 trillion, including more than $1 trillion in credit card debt with extremely high interest rates. In many developed countries, buying a home, getting a university degree, or even paying for medical treatment now requires decades of loans. As a result, millions of people spend most of their working lives servicing debt rather than building real financial freedom.
How did we get here? The answer begins with crises. The 2008 financial crash, the COVID-19 pandemic, global conflicts, and supply chain disruptions. Each crisis pushed governments to spend enormous amounts to save economies and support citizens. And every time, the easiest solution was borrowing. Raising taxes is unpopular. Cutting spending is politically dangerous. Debt is fast, painless, and invisible at first. It works like a painkiller that hides the illness instead of curing it. Between 2010 and 2021, most central banks kept interest rates close to zero. In some countries, they were even negative. This made borrowing incredibly cheap. Governments and corporations borrowed without fear because repayment costs were minimal. But after the pandemic, inflation exploded. Central banks were forced to raise rates rapidly. Suddenly, debt became expensive. Interest payments alone began consuming huge parts of national budgets. In several countries, governments now spend more on debt interest than on education or healthcare. Today, more than 3.4 billion people live in countries that spend more on servicing debt than on basic social services. This means entire generations are paying for financial decisions they never made. And this creates political anger, social tension, and declining trust in institutions. People begin asking why they work and pay taxes if most of the money goes to banks and creditors. The global financial system does not operate on full repayment. It operates on refinancing. As long as a country can borrow new money to pay old debts, it is considered stable, even if it never pays back the original amount. This is like using one credit card to pay another. As long as banks trust you, the game continues. The moment trust disappears, everything collapses. This is what happened in countries like Greece, Argentina, and Lebanon. Trust is the real currency, more important than gold, dollars, or euros. It is the belief that a government or company will keep paying. That belief can disappear overnight because of political chaos, economic recession, or even rumors. When trust falls, interest rates rise, investors flee, and debt becomes impossible to manage. The most dangerous part of this system is that it rewards short-term thinking. Politicians prefer borrowing today and leaving the bill for future governments. CEOs prefer loans that boost quarterly profits instead of long-term investments. Consumers prefer spending now and worrying later. Millions of small decisions driven by convenience and pressure slowly build a mountain of future obligations. In theory, debt can be reduced through economic growth, higher productivity, and smart reforms. But this requires discipline, patience, and sacrifice. It means cutting popular programs, raising taxes, and limiting spending. In a world driven by elections, social media, and instant reactions, this is extremely rare. So leaders postpone reforms until crises become unavoidable.
Debt itself is not evil. It helped build roads, universities, hospitals, and industries around the world. It financed development and lifted millions out of poverty. But it becomes dangerous when it turns from a tool into a lifestyle, when borrowing is used to maintain unsustainable comfort instead of building real capacity. Today, the entire international financial system depends on government bonds. Banks, pension funds, and insurance companies treat them as the safest assets. Any serious crisis in major government debt would shake the whole world. That is why central banks rush to save big countries and institutions, even if it means printing money and creating more debt. Stability is protected at the cost of long-term balance. We are not living inside a secret plot. We are living inside a structure that evolved step by step until it became dependent on debt, a system that rewards fast borrowing and punishes slow discipline, a system that makes it extremely hard for any country or individual to escape alone without serious pain. The real question is not whether this system will face trouble tomorrow or in 10 years. The real question is how we will respond. Will we keep consuming the future or start rebuilding it slowly? Will we remain prisoners of numbers or learn to understand what lies behind them? Because those who understand the rules early do not fully escape the game, but they learn how to play it with less damage and more awareness. And if you found this analysis valuable, do not forget to subscribe and activate notifications, because what we discuss here is not just about money, it is about the shape of our lives in the decades to come.